Welcome back to The Fire and the Vision. I'm your host, The Watcher. Today we're stepping into a conversation stirring across the world, a prophetic look at why Yahuwah may be allowing systems to fall apart, identities to be erased, and positions of influence to be stripped from the Hebrews. Is this judgment, correction, or is it mercy, a rescue disguised as destruction? Joining me is my co-host, The Flame, as we unpack scriptures in the wider prophetic tradition. Today's episode is titled, When Babylon Burns, Why the Fire is Our Escape. Flame, let's get into it.
Greetings, Watcher, and I'm glad to be back. You know, a lot of people are trying to make sense of what's happening today. The erasing of Black history, the removal of Black officials from positions of power, and the shifting of political systems worldwide. But when we look at Scripture, especially Zechariah 1 verses 14 to 15, Yahuwah says, I am jealous for Jerusalem and for Zion with a great jealousy. And I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease. The nations that colonized and oppressed have been at ease, expanding their power without recognizing the spiritual cost. But Yah says he's stepping in. And sometimes, his intervention means removing his people from positions inside a collapsing system, so they won't be judged along with it.
Exactly, which ties into something major, the call for the Hebrews worldwide to detach themselves from the systems of Rome, the modern expressions of empire. In John 19 verses 14 to 15 says, the Hebrews declared, we have no king but Caesar. That allegiance was costly. But today, Yah is calling his people back to himself, not to the Iron Empire or its clay partnerships. And in Daniel 2, we read about the statue, the legs of iron representing Rome, the feet of iron mixed with clay, the fragile alliances of the end times. That mixture cannot hold. It must fall before the rock, the Messiah, strikes the feet. In family, the clay must separate from the iron before the impact.
Let me bring this home with a story. A man once got shipwrecked on a deserted island. He built a small hut from straw and bamboo. It became his shelter, his identity, his security. One day, while gathering water, he looked up and saw smoke. His hut and everything he had built was on fire. He ran to it in despair. His survival was gone, his future destroyed. But just as he sank into hopelessness, a plane saw the smoke. A rescue team arrived. They told him, we've been searching for weeks. We passed over this island before, but today we saw the smoke and the fire rising. What the man thought was destruction was actually his salvation. Family, sometimes Yah sets fire to the hut of Babylon, so his people will stop rebuilding in a place that was never meant to last. The burning is not abandonment. It's not punishment. It's deliverance.
And when we look at the world today, the political tension, the rewriting of history, the collapse of justice systems, the purging of Hebrews from the institutions of Gentile power, we must ask, is the hut burning? Is Yah allowing this so we will not cling to a collapsing structure? Because Revelation 18 verse 4 echoes, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins. It's a warning, it's a calling, it's an invitation to step away from the iron, step out of the clay and iron alliances, and prepare for the kingdom that cannot be shaken.
Family, when the hut catches fire, don't mourn the loss. Look for the rescue Yah has set in motion. Look for the plane overhead. Look for the shift in the heavens. Because Babylon must fall for Zion to rise. And sometimes, Yah's mercy looks like disruption. Sometimes his love looks like eviction from the wrong kingdom. Sometimes his protection looks like the removal of power that would have crushed us when judgment comes.
Flame, thanks for that stirring story that lit a fire in our souls. That's all for today's episode of The Fire and the Vision. If this conversation spoke to you, please make sure you subscribe to this podcast on Spotify for creators and check out our YouTube channel, Contending for Faith. Like the episode, share it with someone who needs it, and drop a comment so we can keep this dialogue going.
My pleasure, Watcher. Until next time, family, stay watchful, stay lit, and remember, when Babylon burns, Yah is already preparing your escape.